One day, Nate and I were on the phone, and we were, as Nate says, we were venting frustrations, saying that, we're carrying all day. It was in the middle of the summer. We have to go home and clean our guns every day, wipe it down. Really hot day working outside. We'd have to sit there and clean the firearm, break it down and clean it. So we started kicking around ideas about different materials that these holster manufacturers should use. And I mentioned the word neoprene and elastic and different stuff. And actually, our first idea was to build holsters into the pants themselves. Uh, Nate kind of helped talk me out of that idea. Thankfully, he had the foresight to do that. Um, but he basically just said, why don't you order some materials and see what we can come up with. So that's exactly what we did. I just ordered some odd lots out of out of a catalog online, and it came in, and I sat there and made our first holster, and this is the way it turned out. You can see it looks a little bit different than the holsters that we manufacture currently. We're a little bit more skilled than we used to be, but it has the same basic idea. We completely isolate the firearm from the carrier. And this neoprene not only gives them padding to make it more comfortable to carry, but it also acts as a moisture barrier, so sweat and skin acids can never transfer through any leather or any other materials that we were thinking about using at the time to any part of that handgun. So it made it more comfortable and more convenient as well, because you don't feel like you got to go home and clean the thing every night. Well, with the first holster, I hand stitched the elastic into the neoprene, so it didn't look all that great. So we knew we were going to need sewing machines, so we went and started doing research on different types of machines, and we decided on a Bernina. Went to the local store, the sewing store in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, bought our first Bernina, went to a sewing class that next weekend to learn how to take care of the sewing machines, and that's where we started as far as an actual production level equipment is concerned, was our first sewing machine. Of course, looking at the first holster, we knew we had to make it more durable than just a piece of neoprene here and some cheap elastic. So we started doing research on higher quality materials, what would last. Obviously, looking at the holster industry, the thing that has been used the longest is cowhide leather. So that's what we started doing research on, is different types of leather, different types of tanning processes, what was going to work best against the finish of a firearm, what was going to be flexible so it conforms to the carrier and conforms to the gun and works best with our product. That's what we did. This is the first holster right here that we made. One of the things we noticed is having neoprene right against your skin was really uncomfortable. So I sacrificed one of my Under Armour shirts and sewed it on to try to make it a little bit more comfortable. It didn't work very well. It was an attempt, but it was a failed attempt. And then this is actually the first holster that Nate Beard made. You can see he always takes the idea and takes it really to the next level. He put the Under Armour shirt on both sides of it, and did a lot better job than my first attempt. So that was Nate's first holster there. And now we carried these holsters for 2 or 3 weeks. We carried these holsters, and then you realize, all right, we need to change this, we need to change that. So then we were able to find some neoprene that actually had a jersey material, like on a wetsuit, that was already attached to it. So we started using that to try to make it a little more comfortable so it didn't feel so hot. And it worked much better. It just wasn't quite where we wanted it. So we started looking at different materials. Of course, we went from having just the elastic on the front to guide the gun down into the holster, and the neoprene here, to using this is actually pigskin to help guide the gun, because it's more durable substrate to use. And you can see different versions of different attempts at some of the trying to perfect the idea of the holsters. This is actually our first revolver holster. Nate always jokes that it looks more like a stocking, but it is a revolver holster there. This is another design idea, try to put an automatic cant onto it. You notice a lot of these first holsters here do not have a clip attached to them at all, as opposed to what we ended up with. Once we started using the suede leather on the back to give you that buffer between the neoprene and the body, we noticed that suede actually had a natural friction to it, so it actually helped hold the holster in place. So we never did put a clip on it in the beginning, and then of course we started putting clips on them eventually. This would be one of the first holsters that we took to the gun shows. Our first gun show was in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and we sold 17 holsters. We actually sit up all night sewing holsters together in the hotel room. We made 23 holsters sitting up all night sewing them together, and this is one of the ones that would have been, for sale there at the show. Of course, there are customers out there that are still carrying the same style holster. When we see them at the shows, we try our best to talk them out of it, let us give them a new one, but they normally say, "Well, these are already broke in, so I don't want to start all over." And that brings us to our last holster here. This is one of our original series holsters that's on the market today. Our original series does come in 7 different sizes. This is called our compact size. One of the advantages of using this dense herringbone elastic that we use for retention of the firearm, number one, it allows your waistband to aid in the retention of the firearm. But the other thing is, it's not gun specific. It's just size specific. So if a customer has more than one firearm that they like to carry that is similar in size, they can buy one holster instead of having to go out there with some of the other manufacturers and buy gun specific holsters and have to carry 2 or 3 different holsters, two or three different guns. They can actually buy one of these and be able to carry both guns in it. So the goal is for us to be able to allow somebody to carry their gun all day comfortably, and not feel like they got to go home and wipe it down and clean it every night. Well, initially, obviously, the first obstacle that any business goes through is a financial one. How do you have money to invest to start something like that? Because Nate and I both have families. I had recently got laid off from a job, so I didn't have a lot of extra money to throw out towards the business. Nate had saved up some money, and he actually bought the first sewing machine that we had. And that's one thing I want to say, make sure everybody understands. Nate and I both feel very blessed and feel like the Lord is definitely a part of our business. We ask Him daily to lead, guide, and direct us in our decisions, that everything that we do would bring honor and glory to Him. So first and foremost, without the Lord, our business wouldn't exist. But I do feel like that, and I believe Nate does as well, that the Lord brought us together. People ask us if we're brothers. We're not. We fight like brothers most of the time. We disagree more than we agree most of the time. But what comes out of us working together is better and better ideas and better products. But that was one of the first, or our initial bump in the road, so to speak, was financially. So the Lord provided through Nate that. And we've maintained that. And I would suggest people, not only in their personal lives, but in their business ventures as well, to do the same thing. If at all possible, grow slowly and pay everything up front. Don't wait until somebody's going to give you money. Get out there and do it on your own and grow at the pace that you can afford to grow, and do not incur any debt. And still 2.5 years later, our company has 0 debt. We buy everything up front. We pay for everything up front before we get it. Or we'll pay it within 15 days of receiving it most of the time, or something like that. We don't have credit limits with companies or anything of that nature. So that was a big benefit. But that was our first hurdle, was financial. Then of course, it's just research and development with a new product. And you just never give up. You never stop. You keep driving until you find a solution. And that's one thing that probably has helped Nate and I both, is we're both extremely hard-headed, and we just will not give up on something until we're satisfied that we've come up with the best solution possible. And we may argue about what the best solution is, but normally the best solution is the one that ends up taking the forefront, and that's the way we go. But there's been bumps in the road, whether it's materials or designs or anything like that. We've had a bunch of different hurdles to overcome, but the main thing is being determined that you're going to make it work and never give up, which truly is the American spirit. And the reason why our country is the greatest country in the history of the world is because the people of America never give up. We never stop. We always want what's best and try to produce what's best. And the sooner that we get back to that, the better off our country will be. Yeah, we traveled around and talked to some quote-unquote gun people, some gun store owners and things like that, and got their opinion of the product. And we heard quite often that you'll never sell any of those. Yeah, you can't design a holster like that. That's the reason why nobody's ever done it. It's because it doesn't work. And we were just kind of blown off pretty quickly, which is okay because, like I mentioned before, we're pretty hard-headed, so we weren't going to give up, and we just kept on because we believed in the theory and the idea behind our design. We went and spoke with a patent attorney. We were able to get it patented very early simply because it is so different than anything else out there. So that's a huge benefit to where some holster manufacturers have been trying for years to get a patent. We got ours in a matter of about 10 months. Simply because of the materials that we use and the design of our holster is so different than anything else out there.